What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. So, I want to talk about this whole like friends versus living single versus friends controversy or situation that's recently came up, right? So I'll give a bit of a backstory right quick just about how this situation came about. Of course, we know the TV show Friends, right? And we also know the TV show Living Single, right? Both 90s television shows, okay? So, one of the actors from the TV show Friends, David Schwimmer, aka Ross Geller from Friends, he was speaking in an interview and he said something to the effect of, like, oh, he would like to see an all black cast of Friends or something like that, or a more ethnically diverse variation of Friends. Kind of like a remake, but like, you know, having different ethnicities represented versus like all white people, right? And black folks, especially black women, were livid. All right, they were not having that because for them, they was like, nah, Ross, nah, bro. Your friends, your TV show Friends, that you was getting paid that $1 million check every episode at one point was based off of Living Single. And then, Black Twitter came for Ross. Black Twitter, especially black women on Twitter, they're like, Ross, we gonna drag you. Like, we gonna drag you across the internet, Ross. We gonna snatch your edges, white boy. And I was just like, Ross, run! Run, Ross, run. You better stay away from them black women. I know you dated a black woman for a moment on your TV show Friends, but nah, they ain't like Aisha Tyler. Run, Ross. When black women talking about snatching edges, run. But seriously. And then the actress who played Maxine Shaw, attorney at law, she kind of came in the mix too, and she was kind of nice about it. She wasn't totally like, angry black woman, let's drag Ross and snatch his edges. But, she was like, hey, we kind of, we pretty much, you know, there's already a black version of Friends, low key. Anyway, and she was like, we made the template for you. You're welcome, bro. And then, Ross, he came on and apologized. He said, he didn't know. He thought that Living Single was on a break. So he thought that him and Living Single was still on a break. But apparently, I don't know. You know how Ross is when it comes to being on breaks. All right. um, but I kind of wanted to come in and come through and kind of give my whole 2 cents about the situation. Friends versus Living Single versus Friends, similarities, differences, whatnot. And just give my own personal opinions about, how I view the shows, whether I like the shows or not. And for me, just a little bit of backstory about how I was introduced to both shows. I was introduced in the 90s via syndication. Actually, like the WB, if I remember it. Like the WB used to have a network back in the day. Some of y'all might be a little bit too young to remember that. But the WB used to be a television network or station or whatever. And they used to air shows that were in syndication. And on my WB local affiliate, they aired Living Single at some points. It was like around the 6 and 6:30 slots. I remember seeing Living Single. And then they aired Friends as well. I don't remember if they were aired like simultaneous at the same time. I don't know. Um, I remember seeing Friends a little bit later in the evening, maybe like around 10. 10:30 maybe at 7 and 7:30. I don't know. I remember seeing Friends a little bit later in the evening though. Right. So okay, so back in the 90s, this is how it went down. All right, y'all know how the 90s used to be. Yes. When internet hadn't really popped off yet. There was sure as hell wasn't no streaming. You had to watch television shows and catch them when you could. I don't even think they were really big on like DVRs back then. I think you could like set your VCR to record a TV show, right? Right. Like who does that anymore, right? Um, but yeah, and sure as hell, social media had not even popped off. Wasn't even thought of back then. All right. So with all that being said, so I've watched both shows. Okay, I know about both shows. All right, I know about Living Single and I know about Friends, and I like both shows. I actually like both of the shows for different reasons, of course, right? And I know like I have like a lot of black subscribers, especially a lot of black female subscribers. So I'm already pretty sure how it's going, in the comment section, how, the tides are going to sway when it comes to, who likes what or whatever. I understand that, no shame, we all can like what we like, right? Nevertheless, though, I will say, again, I like the shows for different reasons. I'll say that Living Single was a great show, especially for black women, because it did show like, 4 different black women who were, who represented different aspects of what black women and who black women are and can be, right? Like, say, Khadijah, right? She was very much like, sort of like a motherly type in a way, but also she ran her own business too. So she was running her magazine Flavor, and always trying to get good exclusive celebrity interviews for her magazine too, right? And then you had Maxine, attorney at law, Maxine Shaw, attorney at law, and she was very much career driven, and as well, she was also like a satire character too. Black sitcoms always gotta have a satire character for some reason. Like the satire character, a woman, usually brown or dark skin, and she usually has banter in sort of like in an antagonistic sort of way with a man on the show, usually also brown skin or dark skin. Why is that? Like Sanford and Son had it right with Esther and Red Fox, right? And then Good Times also had it. The Jeffersons, right? Martin, right? Like a lot of black TV shows kind of have that dynamic. The only white television show that comes to mind that sort of has that dynamic or had that dynamic was the TV show Married with Children. They did have that sort of a banter, but it came later in the season with like their next door neighbor Marcy and Al, and they used to kind of have like a antagonistic back and forth with each other, calling names and things like whatnot. But back to topic. So we got Khadijah and Maxine, and then we also have Regine. She's very much like the diva of the show, right? She's into fashion. She also pursues a career in fashion as well, right? And the actress who plays Regine Hunter, Kim Fields, right? She was on The Facts of Life, and I have watched The Facts of Life before, right? A little bit before my time, but I have watched it like later on though, right? So I noticed on the show on Facts of Life, like I might come for me for saying this, but Like on The Facts of Life, Kim was brown skinned, but on Living Single, Kim is light skinned and has been light skinned ever since. What happened there? I was like, it was a little interesting. You know, am I the only one who noticed that? You know? Oh. So then next we have Sinclair, right? And she is definitely would be like representative of like the quirky black girl. The quirky girl. She's not like the the black bitch that don't take no shit. Smack talking. You know, cuss a nigga out in a minute. That's not really her, right? She's more quirky, fun loving. Very much perhaps a bit naive at times to the world. But there are black women out there who could probably relate to a Sinclair, right? And then as far as the guys are concerned, then you have Kyle. He would be like the cool guy, and then Overton would be, I guess, like the homeboy. I guess I wouldn't say that he would be like the educated lame per se, but I'd say maybe like your homeboy from down the block right there. Maybe a country boy. You know. So that's kind of like the living single cast breakdown. When you get the friends, I can see people making comparisons between like the characters in Friends versus the characters in Living Single. Like for instance, like Phoebe from Phoebe from Friends and Sinclair would seem like they would be sort of like equivalents. Like Phoebe's kind of like quirky and a bit weird and a bit out there at times, right? She's actually probably like my favorite character, as well as Sinclair is like probably my favorite character. Second would probably be like Regine for Living Single and Monica from Friends, perhaps. And then you have Rachel, who would probably be along the lines of comparable to like Regine. I think because they both have a career in fashion, perhaps. And Rachel did I feel like Rachel kind of came off as a diva at first, but as the story went on, she kind of grew out of that. Then Monica would be like Khadijah, the motherly type. And Monica was always funny with like the OCD and like really being clean, like she's like and like yelling at people to use a coaster. And then you have Chandler, who I feel like is somewhat equivalent to Max. Very sarcastic, joking, sort of thing, right? Although I don't know if Chandler was ever like, like had like a female on the show that he engaged in like some sort of sapphire situation with. I don't think so, right? I guess I don't know. I don't think so. The closest maybe Rachel or Phoebe. I don't know, but and then you have Ross, and I feel like Ross and Kyle aren't exactly equivalents per se. I feel like Ross would be considered probably more so like quote unquote educated lame, who's like low key manipulative. I have issues with the character Ross at times for a few reasons, right? But yeah, so that's kind of like the breakdown of the characters there, right? And comparing the shows, what makes them different? That's something to think about too. What makes these shows different? I know what makes them similar. We can say that, of course, but what makes them different? Because for me, I felt like I was watching a different show when I watched Friends versus Living Single. I never felt like I was watching the same show with a different color cast, right? I think for me, what makes them similar would be, okay, there's 6, 20-something, perhaps 30-somethings living in New York. Friends cast, like they lived in Manhattan. And Living Single lived in Brooklyn, right? And I think that is sort of true to life. I suppose, right? Like African American folks in New York tend to live in Brooklyn, I think. And if you guys are from the tri-state area or New York, really, let me know. But I think that is the case. And many well-off white people live in Manhattan. But the cast of Friends, I don't know if they was really that all well off. But that's another story for another day. So what makes them different? I think like race and culture, right? For me, on a cultural level and a racial level, I, obviously I can relate to living single more on like a cultural and racial level, right? Like even like an episode on living single when I think Kyle was like at his job and he felt like he may be being discriminated against because of the way that his hair was styled. At the time, he had dreads, and he wound up bringing it up to his white managers or whatnot, and they basically said like they didn't really have a problem with that. And then he wound up turning into the dude who told him about it, who was black, right? And I was like, I can relate to something like that too. I never had dreads, but you know, I can understand as far as like, okay, how you are perceived in certain environments, and how hair texture and hairstyles can play a factor in that. Many black men who work in corporate America oftentimes tend to be somewhat shaven, as far as like perhaps more so along the lines of dark Caesars. I'm not saying that there's no black men or black women who wear natural hairstyles, because there are, but I think when it comes to men, probably like dark Caesars or fades are really more popular hairstyles, and for women, probably like permed hair would be a more popular hairstyle, or straightened at least, right? Um, So yeah, so Friends had more so of like a white Jewish vibe with it, right? And I'm not white nor am I Jewish, you know. Um, I in the sense of like I don't claim that as my like racial or ethnic identity. You know what I mean? But it's cool to kind of like see different aspects of American society, though. That's true. And sometimes things are just funny. You don't necessarily have to have a cultural connection to find something funny, you know? Like, well, that's a bit different. I was going to say Seinfeld, but, Seinfeld kind of dealt with, like, the weird, awkward moments in day-to-day life that happens, You know, like, that one episode where Jerry had saw, like, the chef who was cooking his food, like use the bathroom and not wash his hands. And then he was like, when the food came, this girlfriend was like, "Come on, try some." He's like, Poppy. Right? But yeah, right. So on a cultural level, I can relate it to living single more, but it's also cool to see how other groups of people do things, like on Friends, right? And for me, I view Friends as being a bit more quirky, while I view living single as being a bit more like cool down, right? And I like both of them for those reasons. It's some things that Friends wouldn't do that living single would do, which like, okay, that's what's up. And then there's some things that living single wouldn't do that Friends would do. So that's like, okay, that's cool. um, the cast was a little bit different too, because on living single it was like 2 men to 4 women, or either like 2 to 1, I guess. While on Friends it was like 1 to 1. It was like 3 guys, 3 girls, 3 men, 3 women, right? So, that was something a bit different too, you know. And I think that sort of played uh, played into plot lines at times, because I think Living Single did center around, the females a bit more than the males did. But then again, I think Friends kind of did something similar, but I feel like the men were incorporated a bit better at times, right? Rachel trying to find out who her baby daddy was. Y'all remember that? And then, like, at the time, like, she was pregnant, but then I think she was at like Monica's wedding, and I think Monica, and Phoebe wind up going into the bathroom and like reading like a pregnancy test. I think that may have been not at the wedding. I think that may have been a little bit later. Maybe. I don't know. I think it may have been in. I don't know. I forget. But nevertheless, yeah, that happened, right? Rachel trying to find out who her baby daddy was. Turns out it was Ross all this time, right? So, both TV shows did have like intermingling of the cast as far as like relationships are concerned, right? Of Kyle and Max on Living Single, right? Versus Ross and Rachel from Friends, right? And also Monica and Chandler as well, which was also Sinclair and Overton. They also had like a relationship and got married too, I believe. Did they get married? I think they got married. you know. And on the TV show, there was a situation where like Regine wound up moving out. I think they like went on like a TV show or something, like this talk show. I don't know. I don't know if it was like Jerry Springer or I don't know what. But they went on a talk show, and then it came out that like basically like Khadijah had Regine live with her because Regine's mom asked her to, or something like that. And that came out, and she felt some type of way about that, and then moved out, but eventually wound up moving back in. All right. Let's see. So for me, again, I mentioned this earlier, I think, but my favorite characters on Friends were probably Phoebe and Monica more so. I think Ross is probably the character I didn't like. All right. And on Living Single, my favorite characters were Sinclair and Regine. I think, Regine, I kind of like her attitude and, her uppity, sedity ways at times. I found them to be very funny and hilarious, right? And as well, I found Sinclair to be, somewhat very, refreshing and wholesome, you know. So let's see what else I can say. We can talk about, I guess, cultural impact, right? I think for Friends, like, all the white women wanted to have like the Rachel for like a hairdo. They called it the Rachel, the hairstyle that Rachel had on Friends, right? And then I think for the black women, I think Maxine Shaw's braids may have been like a thing, they wanted, like some black women wanted, the braids, her signature braids that she had on the show. I don't think so. All right. And then we had like pay differences and people complaining about pay differences and treatment and things like that. And I'll say that, Living Single got paid what they got paid and Friends got paid what they got paid. And I think the payment ended up being more so due to like popularity and sponsorship. It's like Friends was the more popular show. Even to this day, it's still a more popular show and still the more iconic show. And people are like, hey, let's get a Friends reboot up, right? I'm sure some people want like a Living Single reboot. I would like to see a Living Single reboot, but I just think that the popularity just wasn't quite there, perhaps. And you can catch Friends in syndication so easily, while Living Single, unfortunately, you can't catch it as easily in syndication, unfortunately. And Friends, they were getting paid like at the height of their show like $1 million per episode, I believe. And there were 6 of them too. And, they did come through and like, hey, we're going to all, come together and just go in there and negotiate for the same deal, right? The same payment, right? Since there's 6 of us, they make, six of us make this show. Let's just all go for the same payment, like the same pay. And that's a good thing. I don't know if it worked like that on Living Single. I don't know. Because I can see maybe like Queen Latifah probably getting a bigger pay. And perhaps Kim Fields too, because she did have like, prior acting experience and has somewhat of a fan base to come through on, right? And as well for Kim Fields, that was a great way for her to transition into like adult roles, right? Because on The Facts of Life, she was playing like, a preteen and a teenager and like a young adult. But on Living Single, she was able to fully come through and play like an adult woman, right? So that was cool for her too. And, for me, I would like to see a crossover episode of Friends and Living Single. I think, how about, the powers that be, how about they greenlight that? A Friends and Living Single crossover. Either it can be with the previous actors, or they can do like a reboot and do a whole new cast where they like do some sort of a crossover event, or like a movie or something where they have some sort of a crossover, perhaps, right? That would be interesting to see. And then I've been seeing, like in the comment section of some videos that were talking about this topic, it was like, oh, Friends is mayo. I never watched that show. That show was boring. And I'll say that Friends show, it was like the first season, the first few, especially like the first, I kind of think it was a bit like, but I think as the show went on, it did very much find its own personality and, something that ended up being very entertaining later on. It gets better as it goes on, right? I think Living Single, on the other hand, I think they kind of started off pretty good, right? I don't know what quite happened as far as them getting canceled in the middle of the 5th season. I don't know about that. And then rumor has it there wasn't even supposed to be a 5th season, But yeah, that is something to think about. But let's see, what else I can say? I think I've said all I have to say, I think. Personally, I think that Friends maybe started out as like low-key male, but they kind of went on to be, kind of like ranch, like it's male, but it got some seasoning in it. I'm like, okay, I like the seasoning, okay. It's, maybe not ranch per se, but, something that's a bit, because Friends is a bit quirky, a bit off. Perhaps like hummus. Like, okay, like, that's a little different, but it's like, okay, it's kind of tasty, right? And, for me, again, I like both shows at the end of the day. I would watch both shows. I think that both shows are good for different reasons, And I'll say, like, ultimately, I think I can relate more to Living Single than Friends. And honestly, I feel like Living Single is a bit more realistic, while Friends is a bit, very much more so sitcom-esque. Like, seemingly like these situations would only seemingly occur in a sitcom, versus like Living Single, their situations seem a bit more true to life. But that's sort of like what makes them different from each other in a way too, right? And I know, like, a lot of Black people, some, feel some type of a way about the situation because, they may feel like, oh, well, Black people have been stolen from, so much has been stolen from Black people so much, right? And it's like, okay, when can we ever just get our credit, get our shit, get our coin, without there being like a white answer to it, right? And I can understand that. too. Like in music, they do like white answers and black answers to things. All right, definitely. There's actually a YouTuber who talks about that too. um, but yeah, I can understand, you know, to an extent, like some black people's issue with the situation, especially the people on Living Single, right? At the end of the day, though, I feel like Friends and Living Single, again, they're similar, but they're different. I don't feel like they're the same show. I don't really think they're the same show. There could, I mean, again, like, and as well, people draw inspiration from different situations and different, works of, art or whatever you want to call it, too. Like, I mean, you could say like Girlfriends was low key based on Sex in the City, right? And I don't hear Sex in the City complaining. But then again, I guess Girlfriends never reached that, breakthrough fever where it's like, oh, it overshadowed Sex in the City. We want our, you know, proper due, right? But at the end of the day, I think that, Friends just low key kind of maybe just did it a little bit better and just had like a wider market to appeal to, and that played a part in it. Um, you know, also, I think they put the shows to go head to head, and I don't think that really helped when it came to Living Single situation. To have both shows go head to head because there were probably some white people who probably did like watching Living Single, but also like watching Friends and had to choose. Just like there may have been some black people who like watching Friends and Living Single, but then had to choose, right? And some people who are not black or white, right? So yeah, yeah. Oh, we can talk about guest stars right quick. Living Single had black guest stars, right? I think they had like a Naughty by Nature and like TLC. They also had like Rosie O'Donnell as a guest star, right? I know. Um, Also, who else? Um, Wheezy from the Jeffersons was a guest star on one show of Living Single too. While Friends had guest stars too. um, let's see, Brad Pitt, um, Reese Witherspoon. Um, hmm, what's that lady name? It's like that older white lady. You know that older white lady? She played Chandler's mom. I forgot her name. It's like Morgan something. Not Morgan Freeman. That's what popped into. Not Morgan Freeman. Morgan Fairchild. There you go. But yeah, the guest stars were interesting too on Friends. I think I probably like Living Single's guest stars a bit more. Probably again because of like the cultural thing. But Friends has some interesting guest stars too. You know. But yeah, so I won't go on for any longer. I've gone on for long enough. But I just wanted to put my opinion and thoughts out there about this situation and just give you my little take on it. Considering that I watched both shows, because some people are giving their takes, but they haven't really watched one show or the other. Yeah, more so black people not watching Friends. Like nah, I ain't with that mayo. I don't like that mayo on my salad, my sandwich. Nah. All right. But yeah, I want to just give my take on the situation. Again, both great shows, both are different shows, both are, very much shows on their own, But what do you guys think? Let me know what you guys think about this situation. Favorite show, favorite characters on the shows. Let me know. Did you agree with what Ross said? David Schwimmer? Or, were you one of the women who or people who were, dragging him and trying to snatch his white boy edges out? Let me know in the comment section, y'all. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.